All right, so today I'm doing something I haven't done before, specifically in Florida, which is to harvest a bunch of wild oysters myself and take them home and eat them. When I lived in Washington, I worked at an oyster shucking bar, so I'm pretty good at shucking them. But I launched my kayak today in Cedar Key. It's like 39 degrees when I left the house, but it's a little bit warmer than that now. But I paddled about a mile. The FWC has web pages that show you where you're allowed to harvest and where things are closed seasonally. So it's a little, maybe not quite a mile paddle, and I got to where I can harvest some oysters, a spot that I've been to before. And kind of on the outside of this island, there's a bunch of oysters. On the more inside part, there's a lot of oysters, but it's pretty crazy. One person is allowed 10 gallons of legal oysters per day. So I brought one 5-gallon bucket. I'm gonna harvest what I can, eat what I can fresh tonight, and then probably try smoking some so that I can seal them and store them for longer term, give them out as gifts. But hope you enjoy, see how this goes. I think that gives me my one oyster there. That's kind of how you do it. Something like that. So let's just see if he's 3 inches. It's just barely, but that's a keeper. And when you're just looking at them, they all look big enough, but then you get closer, they're not all big enough. Big old conch shell. That's pretty cool. Size of my hand. Here's one. Bust off smaller oysters. Two. Bigger oyster. So see on there, he's about just under 4 inches. All right. Thought it'd be easier to get big ones. He's big enough. There's plenty of oysters, just not as many that are legal size as I thought there would be. Alright, so as it often happens to me in Florida, the weather forecasts aren't very good and it's getting really windy. It was supposed to be a pretty calm day. So I got to start paddling back to shore because the winds are now supposed to switch to the north, which would be what I'd be paddling straight into. But I was able to get 11 oysters that were big enough. Unfortunately, the oyster beds that I had kind of scouted or observed while I was fishing that I thought would be good for this kind of thing just didn't have many oysters big enough to keep. But I was able to get 11 that were 3 to 4 inches big. So unfortunately I won't be smoking any. I'll just eat these fresh when I get home. Whoa. Ready?
Oh gosh. Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Tastes like an oyster.
I know. They're very yummy.
Well, I had hoped to get more oysters today. I kind of got blown off the water. I fish all the time. I see oysters all the time, and I thought it would be really easy to get into oysters that were big enough to keep, but I guess not all oyster beds are created the same, or I'll have to keep my eyes out for where the larger oysters are. The funny thing is, as I was paddling back in, there were pilings in a seawall that were full of oysters that were big enough to keep, but they're currently in an area that's closed to harvest of oysters. But that's how easy it is to get $30 worth of oysters yourself. I was probably only out there an hour, not even, before the wind blew me off. So hopefully that inspires you to go out there and get some oysters yourself.